Okay, here are a few different ways that people communicate. Words, tone of voice, eye contact, body language, actions, physical touch, energy, listening, writing, and symbols. Words is the most common and obvious way we communicate to one another, but the interesting thing is it's neither the most effective nor the most powerful. But for some reason, it's the way most of us think is our only option. Yes, I can teach you how to be more precise with your words. I can help you with your presentation so that it comes out nicely and in a straightforward way. But speaking with words is the most overused form of communication. There's so many buzzwords and cliches that they change from generation to generation, that change meanings of words we used to find familiar, like words like sick and bad apparently mean good, or sometimes people will answer with just word. You can see how easily someone can be confused. Then there are overused words or code words within a homogeneous type group. The definition resides in the speaker's mind, and the essence of the word is not clearly conveyed to the hearer. Actually, this happens often at my counseling practice. Someone will call and ask if I'm a Christian counselor. Over the years, I've learned, the hard way, mind you, not to answer that directly. I've found that it means so many things to so many people that I'll clarify by asking specifically what they're looking for. Sometimes it means that they expect me not to believe in a certain way, or to take a specific stand on political issues, or to help someone out of a lifestyle that they don't approve of. It might mean that I advocate a certain type of discipline for their children, or that I spend a certain amount of time in church, or that I don't meet with clients on certain days. And of course, that changes with the denomination. So I find it a loaded word. So it's important that I ask someone to clarify what they mean and don't answer unless I have a feel for what they're really asking. There's many buzzwords and expectations that come with a certain usage of words, and it's very important to clarify. If you don't feel comfortable because you're not sure what the other person means, ask. Give them the opportunity to be specific. People make assumptions, and it's one of the main reasons for bad feelings and arguments. If I ask you if you'd like to go to the movies on Saturday and you say, no, I'd rather stay home, I might automatically assume that means you're finally going to clean the garage like you've been talking about. And you might mean, finally I get a day off to sit in front of the TV and watch football. So unless the whole thing is clarified, it could end up in a big argument. If you clarify by asking a question, so what are you hoping to do at home? Then all assumptions are dissolved, and I clearly see that you plan to spend the day relaxing. Point made. But even with clarification, it's important to know that sometimes it's not even the words you use or the assumptions you make, but the tone you use. Who isn't familiar with someone making a request and having the other person sigh, fine, with disgusted resignation? Now, are you really going to assume that that person is fine with your request? We send double messages all the time, and it's important to be aware that all forms of communication must be aligned if you're going to send a clear and straightforward message. Your words must match your tone. I told you I love you is not quite as convincing as a soft, sincere, I love you, with undivided eye contact and open body language. Pay attention. It all goes together. If you're trying to make someone else feel valued, face-to-face communication with kind eye contact is essential. Yelling I love you from another room isn't quite as effective. Asking how you're doing as you're checking your phone, it doesn't really communicate that you really care. So in essence, not only are the words wasted, but they can often be counterproductive. If you want to make a child really listen to you, you must look them in the eye as you make a request. If you want them to listen the first time, It's worth the effort to train them with a feeling that they are valuable enough to have your undivided attention. Then, when they get older and used to responding when you speak because they feel loved, things become much easier. A young child who's easily distracted, who is not good with quick changes, will respond a whole lot better if you train them with loving eye contact. Now, I'm not talking about the evil eye. That's a threat and everyone knows it, and it's just as effective as a negative tone of voice in teaching the other person not to trust your communication. Body language. It sends all kinds of messages that people unconsciously pick up from you. No matter what you're saying with your words, if you have your arms or legs crossed or turning away from the other person, you're expressing a desire to be distanced from them in some way. You're not feeling open and connected, and they'll feel it. If you want to convey an open, welcoming message, keep your arms at your sides or in your lap, or, if you're in an armchair, put them on the sides of the armchair. It's not too hard to figure out. If you put yourself in the other person's position, how would you feel? As a therapist, I'm very aware of the way I sit and the message that I want to convey. I want the client to feel loved and accepted no matter what they're telling me. So I'm conscious of maintaining an open, welcoming, interested posture. Our posture is important in the message it sends to others. If we slouch, it represents insecurity. So it's important to stand up straight when you're speaking to someone. It also makes you appear more alert and interested. Now, too rigid also sends another message as well. So if you're standing and the other person is sitting, it might be a power play, just as perhaps standing with your hands on your hips might be. At the same time, it's important to be aware of what your hands are doing. Your actions are also speaking. If you cover your mouth when you speak, it could be interpreted to appear that you're lying. If a woman puts her hair behind her ear, she could be flirting, or she could mean she's open to what you're saying. Remember, it could also mean that her hair's in her eyes. So remember that you have to use your discernment because, as Freud used to say, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. It's important to be aware, but just as important to use your head while interpreting. If someone's arms are crossed, she might actually just be cold. If someone wipes his mouth, perhaps he feels like there's something on it. These are just guidelines mostly, so you're aware of how you're coming across to others and to help you read what others might be saying to you. And just like our body language is important, physical touch says certain things too. A gentle touch to the arm might reflect interest or concern. A left hand under a handshake might suggest support, or a left hand on top might suggest superiority or power. A handshake is an important physical contact. Secure, firm, palm-to-palm connection. It's hard to do this by myself, but anyway, palm-to-palm connection is very important. It's an important first impression with the handshake, and particularly important on an interview or a business meeting. The other person will make assumptions based just on your handshake. Now, we covered energy in a previous video, but let me just say here that energy is how all things are connected. We feel each other's energy, we impact each other's energy, and it's important to become conscious of that. Actually, about 90% of all communication is nonverbal, and energy, body language, eye contact are a big part of that 90%. We also spent an entire previous video on listening as well. Most people don't realize that listening is a vital part of communication. If you don't get it right, what you end up saying could really backfire. Of course, there's two more types of communication that I'll quickly want to touch on. The first is writing. Writing notes can be a very effective form or way of communicating. For example, writing a note to your teenager and taping it to their bedroom door could gently remind them that they have a music lesson and need to practice. It provides a sort of triangle that takes away whatever negative energy might be between you. The information came from a note rather than nagging mom, so it can reduce tension in the relationship. A note of encouragement in a lunchbox or briefcase can be a pleasant reminder to someone unexpectedly that you're thinking of them. The same goes for an occasional midday text just to say I love you or I'm thinking of you. These are ways to communicate that are good, positive, and quick. If you're good with words but get tongue-tied in delivery, perhaps a card or a note would be appreciated. And finally, there are symbols. We communicate with those as well, and people will make assumptions by seeing those symbols. Wearing a flag on your lapel or a certain other type of lapel pin will cause people to think certain things related to their experience with that symbol. Religious symbols make a statement too. So make sure that you're aware and intentional about wearing certain symbols. Even sign language for the hearing impaired is a collection of symbols used to communicate. A smile is a symbol. A middle finger is a symbol. A wave of the hand can be a symbol of a hello or goodbye, and it can also feel like a dismissal if used in that way. A waving of a flag at the starting line. All these things convey messages without words. As I said earlier, and I think is the main point of this video, is to have you realize that there's so much more to communication besides words, and that 90% can be a very powerful way to communicate. So keep in mind all the different ways that you communicate and practice to make sure you're sending out the message you want to send.